again, everyone. My name is Andrew Goehring.
My name is Shuhui Yang.
And my name is Josué Vera.
And welcome. Many, many welcomes back to our discussion of episode 2 of Shrouded Stories Beyond the Great Wall. We are quite excited to talk about, we've moved on from the creation myth to the people creation myth, which is quite exciting. We just went over it a little bit and refreshed ourselves of how implicitly messy it seems to be to just fashion a bunch of people out of clay and mud, which is fun to think about.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time that happens.
From the Earth. Back to the Earth.
From the Earth, yes, common themes.
Yeah.
Love common themes. No. So, as far as just beginning with some just kind of context questions about the way some of this works, we have, if you like, the classic kind of Cain's wife problem, if you want to even call it a problem. Call it a
situation.
Yeah, situation. Foible of the plot.
Yeah.
That we have this figure who, after the creation of the world, just seems to appear in Nüwa. How are we to take this? Is this a spontaneous thing that simply happens now that there's some order in the universe, or is there more story here that we do not get at this moment?
There are a lot of versions how Nüwa come to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Some even consider her as the creation of the world instead of Pangu. But here, I feel like it makes more sense that because she's a female figure, and that's what we do for giving births. So it fits in the story a lot better. And it was a description of Nüwa, how the description of her appearance and how she's abilities. It was around 2,200 years ago during the war period from a very famous book that records all of the mythologies, geographies, and nature histories of Chinese at that period of time. But that is one of the book we reference back a lot for those kind of mythologies and monsters and deities.
Questions.
Yes.
No, I just that the way you phrase it sounds like a period of war was very influential in the way that these stories came into being. I was going to save this question for later, but now I have to ask it now. About the shape of Nüwa, who's goddess, face of man, body of snake. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
It is a little bit over imagination for people who are not familiar with the story and that figure. But I looked into it a little bit, and the reason why she has a snake body is because a snake is a lot of the time associated with rain, which nurtures life. If you go outside in nature, right before it start raining, the snake's prey will come out, the frogs, the mice, and little insects. So when you see snake outside and preying, hunting for food, that means it's gonna rain soon. That's why we try to associate snake with rain, water, which nurtures
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've never been outside, so this is great to know. Oh my god! I mean, it does make, especially because we have I feel like a lot of our conversation over the course of these discussion episodes is going to involve us saying, well, in the West we usually associate this with this, so now we need to reorient ourselves to such and such. Like snakes, they're not super popular ever since that whole the incident in the garden.
Yes. Apophis is sometimes in the Egyptian mythology depicted like a snake and stuff like that.
Yes, it can be. There's
and you got Medusa with the hair of snakes and all that. So it tends to be it's really interesting because it tends to be a little bit of a malignant. No, that's not a word.
No, it is. That's a word.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But malevolent is also
malevolent. That's the one I wanted. They tend to be a little bit more on the malevolent side. So it's interesting to see them more on the nurturing side of things.
Later on, there are more derivatives of go on into
Okay.
yeah, but because we also have the invention of dragons, which take over the dropping the rain job, so snakes are no longer.
Okay.
Let's not dive into it right now.
I want to
later episodes.
I'm so eager. Oh, I had no idea until I guess I'm so tempted.
I still have like the question of like where does Nüwa come from? Because like we started with like Panguo and like he became the world and all that, but like does it mean that she was like spawned from that essence of him or from somewhere else, or was she just like outside of the egg watching? I don't know. Like it's just like
tapping her foot.
I'm trying to find logical reasons to this. I know it's mythology, but you know.
Personally, I'm more leaning towards she's not from him, but they're kind of on the same level of creation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. From the essence of Yingqi and Yangqi, maybe.
Okay.
But definitely not outside of the egg watching.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Just let me put this in an incubator because we want to hurry this up. Oh my god, that does make. I mean, it makes a certain kind of sense that one uncaused thing would, in the sense of Pangu and the egg and so forth, would not necessarily be the only uncaused thing. That I mean, I know we'll talk more in later episodes about like forces beyond deities, which we've touched on a little bit between us, but I don't want to get too ahead of it. Yes, but you touched also a little bit on the sort of the matriarchal implications of some of this. That instead of humans being created by a father figure, we have quite logically a mother figure that is instead birthing everyone through an extremely hands-on process, which sounds very wet in our particular version, which is fine and good. You need wetness.
It's not. It's supposed to be messy, like you said.
Otherwise, it's just dirt.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just dirt.
Yeah, can't do anything with dirt. But I just bring this up because. Is that reflective of the way these ancient cultures thought and viewed the roles of women in authority and so forth? Not to be too ultra specific about it.
No, yeah, of course. Even though the story was written like during the war period, but like orally it has been spread out since maybe 10 to 20,000 years ago.
As you do.
That's when the time of like matriarchal society in China are like at their prime. And then a little bit, well, I'm not saying there's no like father figures, but they're not the prominent ones. And still, some of the ethical minorities in China, they're still having this kind of custom, worshipping the mother figure instead of the father figure.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And it shows in the story, like with the Nüwa, at least for now, right?
Yes. It makes so much intuitive sense. I mean, you brought up Gaia before in some of our talks about all this. That the mother god is not unheard of in Western thought. It's just especially when we get to just pantheons where it would be very odd to just have all male so forth. You have the Persephones and you have and so forth.
But even then, like they tend to in the retelling of those stories, like they tend to be more of a secondary role, and it's much more dictated by the male figures. In this case, like this particular story is like the protagonist is Nüwa. There's no longer Panguo, like he's the world that's out of the picture. Like the one that's doing the actions and having the agency, as we talked about in previous episode, is Nüwa. So
it's her stage now.
Yeah,
that's nice. Oh. We are not experts on Greek mythology either.
Oh, yeah,
For the record, just want to be clear. Also,
or any mythology for that matter. Just in case.
Oh, that's right. Wait, are we experts? Are we experts on anything?
We're not experts, no.
Oh, damn it. Oh.
We just Google a lot.
It's true. Anyone with Google can pretend to be an expert for about 10 seconds at the very least.
Yep.
So, wine. We end this whole thing with sort of an affirmation of the people's love for Nüwa through the celebration of wine, which she gave them, and then they're like, yeah, thanks, and so forth. And
thanks.
One pictures revelry long into the night as they worship. I mean, certainly we get a lot of wine significance in other cultures we're familiar with. Is there something that's just specific about wine here that I don't know how to phrase it.
More like wine, and it's wine is seen as a celebratory aspect, even like a worshiping aspect to specifically Nüwa. Because like from what I got from the story was like Nüwa was looking at her children basically and saying, "Oh, they're just working every day without any kind of break, any kind of rest. Let me give them something fun, or something to relax, I guess." But that's. I guess you can speak more to that.
One clarification is the wine here is more in general alcohol, not like
I see.
The from grapes, or more like the European, not that, but So my personal guess, because this story was like recorded a lot later, like on paper, at that time, alcohol in general are one of the biggest like tax collector attribution from the government. So there's a reason they're trying to promote that and like get money out of it.
Well, they're trying to jumpstart the economy. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, no, they're trying to justify the taxes.
I see. Yes, all right, I see.
It's like, oh no, the God wants it.
But of course, alcohols are enjoyable. Like you can enjoy yourself more than just working all day.
Yeah. But also, it also kind of makes sense that, you know, like the people in charge wanted to just like, oh yeah, you need to do this if you want to properly celebrate Nüwa, and we'll just be taking a little bit of a cut, you know. For
once again, personal guess.
Yes.
I love that personal guess. It's great.
These things make sense. I love sense making, and one would like to think in a governmental role we would be more soft touch with our influence. But even so, I mean, so we've touched a little already on the business of the clay and the dirt and so forth. I mean, again, familiar concept a little bit for us. The idea of people being made out of dirt or clay, or ashes to ashes and so forth. It feels a little bit like with the clay and the mud and so forth. Especially when we get to the sort of mass assembly line version of people, when we go from sort of the hand crafting to the factory production. Is there any significance to that change? Like, I don't want to. I feel this might be frustratingly broad.
No. Well, that's humanity. Like when we are doing something repetitively, and like we get tired, and that's understandable, even for deities. That's why we were trying to like tell you guys this idea of Chinese deities are more like human than God.
I should have maybe phrased it like this. Should we take it as an insult that we're made of dirt?
No.
Okay.
Are we any different? No. But in the text that was recording the story, there is one line that's not broadly taught to at least my generation, and it's saying the handmade dolls are the rich ones, and the factory whipped ones are the poor people.
Scandalous.
So less quality, I guess.
I don't know if less quality, but like it's telling people you should be contained that what you were born into.
Yeah, but it kind of ties back to that whole like wine thing, right? Like if there is a people in charge like telling this story, I guess they would also want to like justify themselves being a little bit superior to some extent, or like a little bit more special. Of like, yeah, we are in charge, but it's because of divine purpose to some extent. So I guess this begs the question, like you guys being the ones that work primarily with the story, and you being the one that translates from the ancient text, like, why do we not use that part?
Not trying to like impose the idea to people that, oh, am I the poor one? Should I stay poor? Am I less than anybody? So I do think at least one of the reasons to leave that out is to not mislead people and think they're less than anybody else.
Yeah.
It's such a nice idea that, well, not that. That's not a nice.
It's such a great idea.
That these myths, in this way at least, they're very much still alive in our telling of them.
Yeah.
Because in the same way that in oral traditions, as you say, these things bounce around from culture to culture and they change from mouth to mouth, we still today find reasons why we may want to update or massage certain aspects of myth in order to reflect the world we want to see, and also just to tell the stories that are most compelling to us, which is cool.
Yeah, I guess
it's relevant. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It is. I guess like this also like it makes me think like at that time then was there like a very clear class distinction between like rich and poor, and like was there any mobility of sorts?
Social status wise, it was a lot solidified than what we have now. Like right now, if you want to be a businessman, just go register yourself and then go sell stuff, then you're a merchant. But at the time, you were born into certain status, and that status determines what you do for your life. There are ways to like break those barriers, but they're considered quite hard.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sounds hard. Yeah. Yes, I mean, as far as that goes, I don't want to. I don't want to sound too, because again, I don't want to beat the drum too much of how little we know. Except that we know how little we know.
Well, that's a start.
That's a start. It does make you. How to say it? When we talk about with social mobility and so things. I mean, it's. Whatever the ruling class and governmental structure of ancient Chinese cultures were and how they interacted with each other, like I don't even quite know what sort of, how to say it, like royal or governmental hierarchy actually looked like. Like who were there mayors of various
and also like and correct me if I'm wrong, like Chinese culture it's made up of very different cultures all throughout. And it has a very, very long history. Like in the West, we're kind of used to like countries with like 400-year history, or like a little bit more, a little bit less, maybe 1,000. But we're talking about thousands of years.
Yeah, at least
that's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane. Like I mean, at least for me to have that kind of like, for lack of a better word, heritage, like cultural heritage, it's insane.
Thank you. I take that as a compliment.
No, I'm not saying about it.
Like I know we have a lot of dynasties and we've come through a lot of changes throughout the time. But mostly after I'd say around 200 BC, we've kind of established that Confucius is our like main leading. I don't want to say religion. Because it's actually not a religion, but like a way of thinking.
Philosophy.
Yeah, philosophy. That works better. So even though there are like segues when we were taken over by some like ethnical minority groups, the main way of ruling the country is based on that idea in philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah. That's nice. So, we've come essentially to the end of the questions that we figured we'd ask. Now that we've kind of gotten here, are there any other final things we want to toss into the pot as far as things that might have occurred to us or so forth?
Well, the whole distinction of gender is also interesting. Of like gender and like the sex of male, female was just made up for like practical purposes, because Nüwa just like didn't really want to deal with that anymore.
Oh yes,
Nüwa just wanted to rest.
Yeah, at the time, I don't think that they really want to function as male and female. So I don't know, but I believe we're born equal. At the time, and it was backed by a lot of stories and mythologies as well. But later, of course, sadly. But now, here we are. A lot better.
Yeah, but it is interesting that, like they were all basically the same. It's just like that distinction is purely functional. So it goes back to like that kind of like equality thinking between both.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Again, a lot of these are going to be stories that have some explanatory value for something or other. In this case, what an interesting motivator for the fact of maleness and femaleness being that the creator of humans would rather we just do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. I mean, not to be flippant about it.
No, it's nice. It keeps coming back to that whole agency thing.
Yeah.
Like we're given the tools to actually do what we need to do. But yeah, I guess it also goes to show like this is a very old story in a way, because it has so many like different ideals, especially from the stories that we'll cover in the next few episodes. It definitely strikes like it was made from a different cloth in a way.
Yeah. Yes, we're very nicely foreshadowing what we're gonna get into. Tune in next time.
Which kind of brings us to the end of the episode.
Yeah, I think that's not bad. Or I think then, shall we?
Like any further comments, thoughts, ideas that you want to throw into the pot?
Just that I loved how because it was one of my first times hearing the sound effects recently for the podcast. I love how squishy it is. Yeah,
we are squishy beings.
It was this squishy topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So
perfect. I think that's it.
Tune in next time.
Tune in next time. Yes, we will be back. We'll be wearing these same clothes. Can't wait to see you. Bye-bye. Translation by Shuhui Yang. English adaptation by Andrew Goehring. Music by Solwyn Locke. Sound effects by Shuhui Yang and Josué Vera. Art by Ursula Yang. Produced by Shuhui Yang and Josué Vera.